When your own child looks you dead in the eye and says, "Mama, you're just a burden now," something inside you breaks in silence. Not loud, not messy, just quiet, like a candle flickering its last light. The day my daughter threw me into that nursing home, I didn't beg her to stop. I didn't scream, didn't fight. I just stood there on that porch, watching her close the car door, my house keys jingling in her hand. She smiled through the window and waved like she was doing me a favor. And I remember thinking, Lord, how did love turn into this? My name's Evelyn Jones, 63 years old, born and raised in a little southern town where everybody knew your business and everybody's mama was the neighborhood's heart. I spent my life serving plates at the diner, raising my daughter Vanessa on hard work and prayer. When her daddy passed, I held that child so tight she could barely breathe. I told her, "We gon' be okay, baby, you and me against the world." And we were, for a while. See, Vanessa was smart, sharp tongue, quick mind. She got herself into college on a scholarship, and I sold my wedding ring just to buy her that first semester's books. I used to whisper, "One day you'll make Mama proud." And she did. She got herself a good job in the city, started dressing fancy, talking fast, living like the world owed her something. But each time she visited, I noticed a little more distance in her hugs, a little less love in her eyes. Then one day she brought home a man, Derek, sharp suit, colder smile. He looked me up and down like I was an old chair in the way. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Jones," he said, shaking my hand but already judging the cracks in my walls. I could see it clear. He thought I was small, country, beneath them. Vanessa laughed at his jokes, poured him sweet tea, and I sat there pretending everything was fine. But deep down, I knew that man wasn't good for her. Years passed and my body slowed down. I started forgetting little things, where I left my glasses, what day it was. I'd laugh it off, but Vanessa didn't. She started saying things like, "Mama, you need rest," or "You can't live alone anymore." And one morning she came by, all smiles and perfume, saying, "Mama, I found the perfect place for you, just until you feel better." I believed her. I packed a little bag, my Bible, some photos, a sweater my late husband bought me. When we drove up, the building was plain, gray, and quiet, the kind of quiet that hurts. A nurse in white came out and said, "Welcome to Maple Rest Care Facility." My heart dropped. Vanessa kissed my cheek and said, "It's just for a few weeks, Mama." Then she handed the nurse some papers I never saw. When she turned to leave, I called out, "Baby, when you coming back?" She smiled without looking at me. "Soon, Mama, real soon." But soon never came. That night, I sat on that stiff bed, staring at the wall clock. I could still smell her perfume on my shirt. I tried to pray, but all I could whisper was, "Lord, why she do me like this?" The next morning, a kind old lady named Miss Ruth rolled up beside me in her wheelchair. "You new here?" she asked. I nodded. "Well," she said, smiling faintly, "you'll learn soon. Around here, we got two kinds of people, those who've been forgotten and those pretending they haven't." That hit me hard. Days passed slow. Breakfast, pills, TV. The nurses were kind but tired. They called me room 204. Not Evelyn, not Mama, just a number. I started talking to the walls, telling stories about my old house, my daughter, my husband. Some nights, Miss Ruth would laugh and say, "You talk like one of those radio ladies. You ever think about telling your stories for real?" I smile and say, "Baby, nobody listens to old voices no more." But then one Sunday afternoon, a volunteer came by, a tall gentleman named Mr. Henry Clark. Retired lawyer, kind eyes, suit too neat for this place. He helped folks write letters or check their paperwork. When he sat by my bed, I told him my story. About Vanessa, about Derek, about how I signed my house over to her 'cause she said she needed it for tax reasons. He frowned. "Do you remember signing a transfer of deed, Mrs. Jones?" I blinked. "Child, I wouldn't know. She handled all that. I trusted her." He gave a slow nod. "Well, if you still have ownership, that means something. Would you like me to check?" My heart beat so fast I thought I'd faint. "Please, sir." A few days later, he came back with a folder. He opened it up, and there it was, my name, bold and clear, Evelyn Jones. That house was still mine, legally, fully, rightfully. I sat there shaking. I felt like God himself had handed me a second chance. I looked up at Henry and whispered, "You just gave me my life back." That night, I didn't cry. I smiled for the first time in months. Miss Ruth said, "What you grinning about?" I said softly, "Baby, the good Lord just reminded me, justice might be slow, but it don't forget." And if you're listening to me right now, baby, and my story touches your heart, go on and hit that like button, leave a little comment, and subscribe, because somebody out there needs to remember, God don't sleep and mamas don't break easy. I didn't know how yet, but I promised myself I was walking out of that home with my name, my house, and my dignity. And when I did, the world was gonna know Evelyn Jones was still standing. Woke up the next morning with a strange feeling in my chest. Not pain, not sadness, just purpose. See, when you lose everything, even the smallest spark of hope feels like a sunrise. I sat by that narrow window, watching the staff wheel breakfast trays down the hall. Same oatmeal, same quiet. But this time, I wasn't just waiting to die. I was planning my way home. Mr. Henry came back later that week, carrying his worn leather briefcase. "Mrs. Jones," he said, "I've got good news. Because your daughter never completed the title change, your house is still in your name. You can take it back anytime." I just stared at him, hands trembling. "But how, baby? I don't even got bus money." He smiled. "You let me handle that part. You just promise you'll stand tall when it's time." That night, I whispered a prayer over my blanket. "Lord, I don't need revenge. I just want what's mine." A few days later, Vanessa finally showed her face. She came in wearing heels too high for her soul, phone glued to her hand, fake smile plastered on. "Well, Mama," she said, "how's everything? You settling in?" I looked her dead in the eye. "Baby, this place ain't home. Home's where you left me." She laughed, that empty laugh city folks use when they don't want to feel. "Mama, you know this is best for you. You need care, and I'm busy." "Busy living in my house," I said softly. She froze. "What's that supposed to mean?" I leaned back. "Just means the Lord don't like ugly, and he don't sleep neither." She rolled her eyes, muttered something about ungrateful, and walked out. I watched her go, whispering, "Keep walking, child. You gon' learn." Days turned into weeks. Then one morning, Miss Ruth burst into my room. "Girl, turn on Channel 5. On that little TV, they were showing a story about a local charity event, and there was Vanessa, smiling beside Derek, cutting a ribbon in front of my house. They turned it into their dream home renovation project. Reporters called them a successful young couple building generational wealth. My stomach dropped, but then I smiled. Because I knew what Mr. Henry had told me. That house wasn't theirs to build on. Let the world watch them boast. I'd let the truth speak when the time was right. A week later, Mr. Henry came again. "Mrs. Jones," he said, "you sure you're ready?" he asked. I nodded slow. "Baby, I've been ready since the day she shut that car door." He arranged a meeting with the housing board, and by law, Vanessa had to attend. She came in looking nervous, Derek beside her in his cheap silk tie. The official cleared his throat. "Miss Vanessa Clark, it appears you and your husband have been living in a property still owned by Mrs. Evelyn Jones." Vanessa's mouth dropped. "That's impossible. I have the documents." Mr. Henry slid a paper forward. "Incomplete and invalid. You never filed the transfer." Silence. You could hear a pin fall and a heart break all at once. She turned to me, eyes wide. "Mama, why would you do this to me?" I looked her straight in the soul. "Baby, I didn't do this to you. You did this to yourself when you forgot who raised you." Derek tried to speak, but the officer cut him off. "Sir, you and your wife must vacate the premises within 10 days. I walked out of that building on shaky knees, but honey, I felt 10 feet tall. Mr. Henry held the door open and whispered, "You all right, Miss Evelyn?" I smiled. "I'm better than all right. I'm free." When I got back to Maple Rest, the whole hallway was waiting. Miss Ruth, Miss Lottie, even the nurses. They clapped like I just won the lottery. "Look at you," Miss Ruth laughed. "Old lady brought justice with her Bible." I grinned. "Justice don't need no gun, baby, just truth and time." That night I sat by the window again, moonlight pouring in. I thought about the years I'd spent giving everything to people who took too much, and I realized something. Forgiveness don't mean forgetting. It means letting go of the pain so God can handle the rest. I whispered, "Lord, I forgive her, but thank you for reminding her whose name is on that deed." If you're still listening to my story, baby, go on and tap that like, leave a little heart in the comments, and subscribe. Because maybe somewhere out there, another mama's watching this, wondering if her pain still matters. And I want her to know, yes, it does. Vanessa thought she buried me in that nursing home, but what she really did was plant me. The morning they handed me the keys, my hands were shaking so hard I thought they'd drop right through the floor. Silver keys, cool against my skin. My own name tagged to them once more. Evelyn Jones. I whispered it out loud just to be sure it was still real. Mr. Henry drove me back to the house. The closer we got, the more the air smelled like memory. Magnolia trees, fried okra from the corner cafe, sunlight bouncing off those chipped white shutters. When we turned down the street, my throat tightened. There it was, my little brick house with the peeling porch rail and the creak in the step that used to drive Derek crazy. A for sale sign leaned in the yard. Empty, quiet, mine again. Henry parked and looked over. "You want me to go in first?" I shook my head. "No, baby, a woman ought to walk back into her own home by herself." The lock clicked and the smell hit me. Dust and lemon cleaner, the ghost of dinners long gone. I stepped inside, touching the wall like it was skin. "Hey there, old friend," I whispered. The sun came through the curtains just right, laying stripes of gold on the floor. I swear, it felt like the house was breathing again. Henry left me there with a smile and a stack of papers. "Take your time settling in," he said. "And Mrs. Jones, don't you ever doubt what's yours." When he pulled away, I just stood there for a long time, listening. The clock on the mantel still ticked. I hadn't wound it in years. Maybe time was waiting for me. I spent the next few days cleaning. My back ached, but every swipe of that rag felt like wiping pain away. I opened the windows, let the breeze carry out old hurt and bring in new life. The neighborhood kids stopped by, little ones I used to give candy to. "Miss Evelyn, you back?" they asked. "I sure am," I smiled, "and y'all better keep them bikes off my porch again." They laughed, and for the first time in a long while, so did I. That weekend, I baked peach cobbler, just like the old days. When the smell hit the street, folks started knocking. Church sisters, old co-workers, even Pastor Leroy. "We thought you passed, girl," he said. I laughed till tears came. "Almost did, Pastor, but the Lord wasn't done with me." We sat on the porch, passing plates, telling stories. Someone brought a guitar, and before I knew it, we were singing old hymns under the streetlight. The whole block glowed. I realized then, you can lose a house, a title, a family, but you can't lose home, not if you keep love alive inside you. 2 weeks later, a car pulled up slow. I knew that sound, the little rattle in Vanessa's engine she never fixed. She stepped out, heels clicking, face softer than I'd ever seen it. No Derek this time, just her. She stood at the gate like a stranger. "Mama," she said quietly, "can we talk?" I didn't say yes right away. I wiped my hands on my apron, looked her over. She looked tired, smaller somehow. "Come on in," I said at last. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one she grew up around, the same one she left me for. For a long minute, no words, just the hum of the fridge. Finally, she whispered, "I lost everything. Derek took the money, left me with debt. I didn't know who else to come to." I folded my hands. "You always had somewhere, baby. You just forgot." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Mama. I was wrong. I thought success meant leaving all this behind, but it ain't nothing without you." I could have scolded her, could have reminded her of every lonely night, but the Lord put something softer in my heart. I reached across that table, laid my hand on hers. "Child, pain is a teacher. Looks like you finally graduated." She laughed through tears, just like when she was little. "Mama, can I stay a few days till I figure things out?" I nodded. "You can stay, but you gon' earn your keep. There's floors to mop and cobbler to bake." We both laughed then, really laughed, the kind that heals. That night, we cooked together for the first time in years. She measured sugar wrong, burned the crust, and I fussed at her like old times. But my kitchen felt alive again. When we sat to eat, she looked around and whispered, "I forgot how warm this house feels." I said, "That's 'cause it remembers love, even when people don't." Before bed, she hugged me, not the quick, distracted hug she used to give, but the kind that says, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I whispered in her ear, "The door's always open, baby. Just don't wait till it's too late next time." Later, when the house was quiet, I sat on that porch with my tea. Fireflies danced in the yard. I looked up and said, "Thank you, Lord. You brought my child home. Not through revenge, but through mercy." If you're still here listening, baby, go ahead and hit that like, drop a heart, share this story. Somebody out there's holding on to hurt tonight, thinking it's too late. Tell them Evelyn Jones said, "Grace still works overtime." Because sometimes the biggest miracle ain't getting even, it's getting your peace back. Morning light spilled through the lace curtains, laying soft gold over the kitchen table. Vanessa was already up, barefoot, hair wrapped, staring into her cup of coffee like it held her future. I watched her from the doorway for a while. My baby, grown woman now, yet right then she looked 12 again, lost, trying to be brave. "Coffee gone cold," I said, stepping in. She smiled faintly. "I never did learn how to make it like you." "'Cause you don't put love in it, baby. That's the secret." We sat quiet a bit. You can't rush healing. It's like bread dough. Gotta let it rise slow. Finally, she said, Mama, I've been thinking about everything I did. The way I left you, the way I let Derek use me. I kept stirring my oatmeal. Ain't no need to dig up graves, child. We both still breathing. That means we got time to make things right. She nodded, tears glinting in her eyes. I want to make it right, Mama. I just don't know where to start. Start by staying, I said softly. Stay long enough to remember who you are. And she did. She stayed. Days turned into weeks, and slowly the rhythm of home came back. We cooked together, sang along to gospel records, went to church on Sundays. Folks whispered when they saw us, "Ain't that the Jones girl, the one who left her mama?" But we held our heads high. Sometimes the best apology is simply showing up. One Saturday afternoon, the church ladies came by for a potluck. Miss Ruth even rolled herself up the porch ramp. Lord, she'd moved out of that care home 2 months after me. "If Evelyn can walk out, so can I," she'd said. She gave me a wink. "You still telling your stories, girl." I laughed. Every day, just got a new one called Grace and Grit. They all crowded in, filling the house with laughter and the smell of cornbread. Vanessa helped serve sweet tea, smiling shyly when the women asked how she'd been. "Learning," she said, "mostly learning." Later that evening, after everyone left, we sat on the porch swing. The cicadas hummed like a choir. "Mama," Vanessa said, "you ever think people can really change?" I sipped my tea. "People can't always change what they did, baby, but they can change what they do next. That's what redemption looks like." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I wish Daddy could see us now." "He does," I said. "He right here in this breeze, laughing at how hard-headed you been." We both chuckled, tears mixing with our smiles. The next morning, she came to me with an idea. "Mama, what if we fix up the house together, turn it into something good, a place where other folks, especially older ones, can come for stories, advice, or just a warm meal?" My eyebrows raised. "You mean a little community spot?" She nodded eagerly. "Exactly. We could call it the porch, a place for second chances." Lord, my heart swelled. "Now that," I said, "sounds like something worth building." Over the next few weeks, we got to work. Vanessa handled the permits, I handled the neighbors. Folks donated chairs, paint, curtains. Henry came by with legal papers again, this time to help us register the porch as a nonprofit. "Can't believe I'm seeing this," he said, smiling. "Evelyn Jones, CEO of Grace." I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my lemonade. "Now don't you go giving me titles, baby. I just make cobbler and tell stories." But deep down, I felt proud and peaceful. When opening day came, the yard filled with people. Church members, nurses from Maple Rest, old faces from the diner. A news reporter even showed up. Funny how life circles back. She asked, "Mrs. Jones, how did this idea start?" I looked at Vanessa and said, "With a broken heart and a little bit of faith." Vanessa gave a speech that made everyone cry. "My mama taught me you can lose your way," she said, "but if you listen close, you'll still hear love calling you home." Applause echoed down the street, and I swear I felt the air hum with grace. That night, after everyone left, we sat alone under the stars. "You proud of me, Mama?" I looked at her, eyes full. "Baby, I was always proud. I just been waiting for you to be proud of yourself." If you still listening, baby, don't scroll yet. Go ahead and tap that like, leave a little comment, and subscribe. 'Cause maybe you've been running from someone who still loves you. Maybe tonight's the night you call them. See, forgiveness ain't weakness. It's power, the kind that sets two souls free instead of one. And as I sat there on that porch, my daughter's head on my shoulder, I knew our story wasn't about revenge. It was about redemption. The sun was setting low, painting the sky with streaks of gold and crimson. The kind of evening that feels like God himself paused just to admire it. The porch was quiet now. The last of the guests had gone home, leaving behind the smell of fried chicken and laughter that still lingered in the air. I sat out there alone for a while, rocking slow, listening to the crickets and the creak of that old swing. My bones ached, but my heart was light. Funny how peace sneaks up on you, one small act of love at a time. Vanessa came out carrying 2 mugs of cocoa. "You still up, Mama?" I said, smiling. I was just talking to the stars. She laughed, sitting down beside me. "What's they say?" "They said I finally did good." She leaned her head against mine. For a long moment, we didn't speak. The breeze rustled the magnolia leaves, soft as a lullaby. Then she said, "Mama, you ever think about what comes next? Like, after this life?" I looked up at the moon. "I think heaven looks a lot like right now. People you love, stories you've told, hearts you've healed." She went quiet. "If I ever lose you," I stopped her with a hand. "Don't. You don't lose what's inside you. You carry it forward." We sat there until the cocoa turned cold and the night folded around us. Later, when I went to bed, I thanked God for giving me a second chance to love my child right. Weeks passed, seasons changed. The porch became a beacon. Folks from all over town came through. Young mothers needing advice, widowers craving company, kids who just wanted cookies and stories. I'd sit on that swing, telling tales about courage, forgiveness, and how even the worst storms leave behind clean air. Vanessa ran the place with a strength I hadn't seen in her before. She started hosting storytelling nights, recording people's memories. "Everyone's got a testimony," she said. "They just need someone to listen." One day, a letter came in the mail, stamped with a TV network's logo. They'd heard about the porch, wanted to do a feature. Imagine that. Me, old Evelyn Jones, who once sat forgotten in a care home, now being asked to share her story on national television. Vanessa was nervous, but I just chuckled. "Baby, I've been talking all my life. Might as well let the cameras listen this time." When the crew arrived, they filmed us cooking, laughing, reading letters from strangers. One question caught me off guard, though. The reporter asked, "Mrs. Jones, after everything you've been through, betrayal, loneliness, loss, how did you find forgiveness?" I looked straight into that camera and said, "Because bitterness don't feed the soul. Forgiveness does. You can't grow flowers in poison, honey." That clip went viral. Millions watched. People started sending letters, stories about mothers and daughters reconciling, sons calling their parents, families rebuilding. The porch became more than a place. It became a movement. Vanessa cried the day we got our 1,000th letter. "Mama," she said, "we're helping people we'll never even meet." "That's how love works," I told her. "It travels light." But one night, my chest felt tight, the kind of ache you don't ignore. I sat on that swing again, stars shimmering like old friends waiting. Vanessa came running out. "Mama, you okay?" I took her hand, smiled faintly. "Yeah, baby, just tired. Think I might rest soon." She started to cry. "Don't talk like that." "Hush now, you done turned out fine. You got this." I made her promise something before the pain pulled me under. "Keep the porch open," I whispered. "Keep telling folks the truth, that love can't be buried. It just waits to be found again." When I opened my eyes again, sunlight was streaming through the window, nurses bustling around, Vanessa asleep beside me, still holding my hand. I smiled. "Ain't no goodbye," I murmured. "Just see you later." A few weeks later, they said I passed peacefully in my sleep. But don't you think for a second that the story ended there. Because every Friday night, the porch still lights up. Vanessa sits on that swing, reading letters aloud. Folks gather round, candles flickering, the air full of warmth and memory. She starts every story the same way I used to. "Now listen, baby, 'cause this one might just save a soul tonight." They say sometimes when the breeze rolls through, the chimes on the porch ring even when the wind is still. And that's me, baby, still sitting there, still telling my stories, still watching my child shine. If you're hearing this now, maybe you needed to. Maybe you got someone you ain't called in years. Maybe you think it's too late. It ain't. Go on and reach out. Pride don't build homes, love does. So before you scroll away, take a breath. Forgive somebody. Forgive yourself. And if my story touched you even a little, subscribe, share it, send it to someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to come home. This ain't just my story, it's ours. Because every one of us is sitting on a porch somewhere, waiting for grace to find us again.